So there are five things that we really focus on in Hello English, especially in our online classes. So the first, in my opinion, one of the most important ones, pronunciation. The reason why this is so valuable is that you are a native English speaker and native English teacher. And they can have an amazing qualified Chinese teacher. They could be the best teacher ever. They could teach English very effectively, but you have to learn how to pronounce different sounds at a very young age. We kind of lose the ability to learn how to pronounce new sounds as we get older. So it could be that their qualified Chinese teacher has a bit of an accent, or they warp their words a little bit, or their intonation is a bit off, which is totally fine. It's very natural. But we are here to help correct that. So we want to make sure that our students do not develop incorrect pronunciation or intonation. So we want them to sound as authentic and natural as possible. Our goal here is for them to be bilingual or trilingual, because some of them already know two different languages. So this is how we can really, really help our students here. It's a huge part of our online class. Lexical resource, vocabulary, of course, that's very important. We learn a lot of new words and we explore them and we use them in different ways. And grammar, of course, grammar is very important. Our big goal here is to have them comfortable and confident and knowledgeable enough to formulate their own sentences independently without using lesson material as a crutch. So you want them to become independent English speakers. We want them to use appropriate grammar at all times. And again, discourse management, interactive communication, very important. I know I'm saying that all of these are important. I do put more emphasis, I do focus a bit more on pronunciation and interactive communication with my students, because as an online teacher, that's how I can really benefit them, how I can really help them, especially since a lot of my students are in the offline classes. Discourse management, interactive communication, we want them to be able to adapt to any situation you put them in. We want them to have real exchanges in English with people. We want them to be prepared for those situations that they're going to have in real life. So definitely pay attention to these five things. These are five main goals here. So I'm going to go into a bit more detail about that by using this lesson as an example, this grade 4 lesson. Each lesson has a common theme. This one is school is in fashion. That's the theme we had for this lesson. Our learning objectives, our goals were to teach our students how to use adjectives and make descriptions, and to talk specifically about clothes and accessories. So we had a couple of common vocabulary words that we explored in the beginning. What we focused on in grammar in this lesson was how to use adjectives to describe different people and things, do this in a full sentence with correct grammar. So we talked about sizes, shapes, patterns, ages, colors, origins of different objects and clothes especially, and we practiced sharing our opinions about those things. And we really focused on grammar during that section, during that component. And pronunciation. So during this lesson, what we focused on was stress and intonation. We do a lot of work on stress and intonation because Chinese is I find it a very musical language, so tone is a huge part of, for example, Mandarin, in my opinion. So we need to teach them how we emphasize words and how we stress words and how we change tones and pitch. We need to teach them the authentic English way of speaking, and it does involve a lot of pitch and different sounds. So here we focused on stressing certain words. For example, she has a beautiful orange purse. So we didn't just say she has a beautiful orange purse. No, no, no. We wanted to show emphasis, wanted to emphasize that the purse was orange. We're learning about details. We're learning how to give details and make clarifications. So that's something that we practiced during that lesson. And interactive communication. There are always common English expressions that we learn. Every lesson in HE, we learn some common English expressions. This one focused on making clarifications. That was our main goal here, was to make clarifications. So we had several situations where we had a text that said, look at the woman, and the student was responsible for using one of these sentences to make a clarification. Oh, you mean the one with the blonde hair? Or, oh, which one? So we gave them different scenarios during which they were able to practice these expressions, but each lesson will have 2 to 3 different expressions that are commonly used in the English language that you will practice with your student. And the listening component, I have a belief that the whole lesson is part of the listening component. As long as you're speaking authentically and clearly, your student will be absorbing everything that you're saying. You're exposing them, you're increasing exposure to the appropriate way of speaking in English, and they're going to benefit from that. Every minute you spend in class with them, they will benefit from that. So be very careful with how you pronounce words, the speed at which you communicate with your student, very important. But again, we do have situations like this particular showtime where we had a role-playing game, so question and answer. And a lot of times we will ask the student questions during their showtime. So, I mean, they do have to listen for what you're saying, learn how to process it, and answer appropriately or reply appropriately in this case, even though it's scripted. So, there are some activities geared specifically towards listening, but not always. And that's why I kind of hold the belief firmly that the whole lesson is part of the listening component. All of it. They're going to be benefiting from everything that you say and all of that time you spend with them. And for the older students, we have the KET, PET, and FCE mock exams. So we have practice exams. So you're going to work on giving the student a mock test every class. It's very short. What it usually is it's a picture, and you have an activity that goes with the picture. They have to describe it, they have to talk about it, or they have to answer questions about the picture. It's usually the format that we use. So here are examples on how we accomplish all of these different learning objectives, how we focus a lot on those 5 things. Here's some examples, and this is all from the same lesson, the one about clothes. So feel free to take a look at this and explore kind of the way that we kind of teach our students these different things. We'll go into more detail very soon about each section. That's the next thing we're going to talk about.